In Genesis chapter 20, Abraham is going to interact with a king named Abimelech, and we'll see that Abraham, a man of faith, still wavers at times. Here's what we see in verses 1 through 3. And Abraham journeyed from there to the south, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in Gerar. Now Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, Indeed, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. So Abraham journeys to the south, into the wilderness. In fact, Abraham is about to go through a dry wilderness time in regard to his faith. But it's in the wilderness that we often find opportunity to grow in our faith. Abraham repeats the same mistake he made in chapter 12. He again covers up his marriage with Sarah, out of fear. She's my sister. It's a half-truth. They're half-siblings. But he is covering up his marriage. It's not uncommon for a powerful king to kill a husband in order to add the man's wife to his harem. Now, a king named Abimelech takes Sarah as his wife. This is not good. Sarah is already married, and it jeopardizes the promise of a son to Abraham and Sarah. Isaac is supposed to arrive within 1 year after the chapter 18 visitation. Abimelech is about to unknowingly commit adultery, but God intervenes. He basically says, You're toast if you proceed. God is protecting Sarah, and protecting Abraham, and protecting his promise of a son. And indeed, Abimelech will back off, and he will not touch Sarah. There are 3 takeaways that we'll highlight at this time. Takeaway number 1, even people of faith waver at times. Abraham is wavering. He makes a decision out of fear, and he's exposing his wife Sarah to potential harm, and it's jeopardizing the promise of a son. Now, the fact that the story has been included in Scripture is actually encouraging, because if Abraham, the father of faith, wavers at times, and yet God still uses him so wonderfully, then there's hope for each one of us, who may waver at times as well. Takeaway number 2, in the wilderness we can grow. Abraham has traveled into the wilderness, into a dry, parched land. It's in the wilderness that our faith is tested, and it's in the wilderness that we can take huge steps forward. Moses was prepared for leadership in the wilderness. The Israelites were purified in the wilderness, unbelief being replaced with faith, and Jesus was tested in the wilderness. In our wilderness experiences, our dry, parched experiences, we have opportunity to learn how to walk by faith and to get back up again after we stumble. Takeaway number 3, God is powerful and faithful. God intervenes, stopping Abimelech in his tracks and protecting both Sarah and the fulfillment of God's promise of a son. Despite Abraham's wavering, God's promise will be fulfilled. So we see God's power and God's faithfulness. Let's be those who make the most of our wilderness experiences, who learn how to walk by faith, not by fear, who get back up again even after we waver, and who experience God's power and God's faithfulness. Thanks for listening.